tell me about your outfits. I mean, did you design your own outfits, all of you? And tell me what each outfit means. And I'll start with you, Ace.
Well, that means a cucumber.
I think this outfit is self-explanatory. I mean, this is part of a kind of a V shape. This is my utility belt, and we don't want to go any below than my waist area because that's reserved for concert payers.
That's good. And that puts all over. They say this is what we paid for, and that's where it always feels short.
I stole this from Flash Gordon, and I have my cape.
But you're kind of like a spaceman, huh?
No, actually, I'm a plumber. On the side.
Hey, listen, I got a little piece of pipe backstage I'd like to have you work on.
Tell me about
it. Rip and destroy.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to a bonus episode of the Rip and Destroy podcast. I'm Mike.
I'm TJ.
And today we're going to do something really unique. We're breaking format. No funny cold opens, no housekeeping today. We're going to do one thing and one thing only, and that's celebrate the life and legacy of Ace Frehley, who on Thursday, October 16th, passed away. So that's what this episode is going to be all about, completely dedicated to Ace. And what we're not going to do today is we're not going to recap his life and career so much. I feel like anybody who's watching this podcast knows what color his shoes were when he auditioned for Kiss. And if you don't, that's okay too, but it's all in this book, no regrets. But what we're going to do is do what we do best. We're going to talk about Ace, talk about what stood out to us, what meant a lot to us, talk about our favorite songs, our favorite solos, share some memories from different shows, and turn this into the victory lap that it should be, celebrating the life and legacy of the coolest guitar player in the history of rock and roll. So that's what we're going to do today.
So yeah, that means Kiss, that means Frehley's Comet, that means his solo work, everything and anything that we love about Ace Frehley.
That's right. And to start things off, before we get into all of that, I told TJ that I had a question for him today. I did not tell him what it was, but I'll preface it by saying that Kiss, unlike any other band on the planet, except for the Beatles, had four very distinct personalities. So much so that everybody would stake their claim. You had Paul guys, you had Ringo guys, and of course with Kiss, which Halloween costume are you going to wear this year? Well, that's your guy. That's your tribe. I was a Peter guy because I wanted to be a drummer. And to know TJ is to know that for a very, very long time, you've been an Ace guy.
Yeah, pretty much.
So is that simply because you were a guitar player, or what was it about Ace Frehley specifically that made you an Ace guy?
I think especially when you get into Kiss, at age 5 back in the late 70s, I think Ace and Gene were probably the most popular with kids like me because their characters were the most superhero like, right? I mean, Paul and Peter were cool too, but you could really identify that the demon and the spaceman, could probably, breathe some fire and shoot some laser beams and kick some ass, right? So as a young kid, I think the demon and the spaceman were probably the most superhero like characters. But
so you didn't want to be a cat, and you weren't really pulling the ladies like that?
No, definitely not. I was not. I was a dog guy, and I definitely was not pulling down the ladies. Okay, so yeah, so you might as well be a demon or a spaceman. But yeah, I always really liked Ace, especially just because I think in a band that could have very easily taken themselves too seriously, Ace brought some levity and he brought some humor, and he was just something a little bit different from all the other guys. He had more silver on his face. He was, instead of being more gothic, he was more sci-fi. So yeah, even within a band that was completely different from other bands, he stood out. And yeah, of course, when I started playing guitar, Ace was a huge influence. When I had my first guitar, I had one of those, just those cheap kind of chipboard guitar cases. It was hard, but it wasn't like a big case or anything, like a big rectangular case. It was just kind of like the guitar shaped case, but it was just kind of like a cheap hard case. But when you opened my case up, I had an 8x10 or a full page ripped out of Hit Parader of Ace with his black Les Paul in the Dynasty costume, and that was what I saw every time I opened up. Every time I went to guitar lessons, opened up a case, there was Ace. And Ace, we'll kind of get into his playing a little bit later, but Ace solos and Kiss songs were such a great way to learn to play guitar because kind of basic, they're kind of easy, but once you really get into them, there's a lot of nuance there and there's a lot of room for a young guitar player to grow, learning Ace and learning Kiss. So yeah, I mean, he's I never met him, but I feel like he's been my buddy this whole time.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so much of his playing feels like it shouldn't work. It's like
Right.
if you drop something and then it just falls perfectly in place.
Yeah.
And what drew me to punk rock is the fact that I've always been more of a song guy than a solo guy. I felt like there was two kinds of people growing up. There's people that wanted to be drummers and there's people that wanted to be in bands. I was a guy that wanted to be in bands. And it's not a surprise to me that Ace influenced so many people without necessarily being, the virtuoso that a Randy Rhoads or an Eddie Van Halen was. But 10 times out of 10, I would rather listen to an Ace Frehley song just because it's a great rock and roll song. And, I'm not so interested in sitting back and thinking about, how many notes can you cram into 5 seconds or, so for me, it's about the songs and he had that in spades. And it's not a surprise to me that he influenced so many people, yourself included, to pick up a guitar and play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we can get into this now. Uh, a lot of his solos, his lead playing, it seemed so simple because he was very heavily relying on like real simple kind of basing everything around like simple blues licks and basic scales. So like I said, a beginning guitar player can more or less start to figure them out, right? But then he had this propensity towards these wild, his wild bends and his vibrato that he could do this vibrato at any speed. He could do it slow or he could do it fast. And his obviously his use of syncopation really made him stand out because nobody was doing stuff like that. So even though some of his solos were simple, others got real weird and unorthodox. And like I said, it made for a good challenge for a young guitarist to learn. On the other hand, he could also be like super fiery and like just on point, like Getaway or Dr. Love, or just completely even unhinged, like in his solos for like Strange Ways or Almost Human,
Yes.
right? So I mean, he had like such a wide range, but it all sounded like Ace. And so again, for a kid figuring out how to play guitar, there was all kinds of stuff to choose from and all kinds of stuff to influence you, just from the one guy.
Yeah. It all sounded like Ace, and sometimes it sounded like Ace pissed off. And I think those are the solos that
Hmm.
stood out to me. So when
Yeah.
we go through our favorite solos, you'll see a few of those on my list. Okay, well, I got one more question before we
Yeah.
get to our list. Why the Dynasty picture? Why not the pizza box? Why not 78?
That's what I had in the issue of Hit Parader that I had, man. I don't know.
Capes. You did say superheroes, so yeah, I guess he
It
had the
looked
cape.
cool. The Dynasty costume was killer, man. I don't know.
It's cool. And he
It
was
is
rocking
cool.
the blue eyeshadow. I like that too.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Right on, right on. Okay, well, speaking of solos, let's just get into it. We
Yeah.
we both challenged each other to come up with our five favorite Ace Frehley guitar solos. What do you got?
Hmm. Okay. So I've already mentioned it in this episode, and I've already mentioned it in previous episodes. Calling Dr. Love is probably my favorite Ace solo.
Okay.
It's so rad. Another one that I've mentioned before is the solo for Almost Human. He's starting to get weird and experimental. There's some backwards stuff in there. There's some dive bombs. Man, I love that one. It feels like it's kind of cut and pasted, but it's like I said earlier, it's unhinged in and it totally fits the song. And then another one I just mentioned, Strange Ways, same thing.
Okay.
I think it's a pissed off solo, like you said. It sounds angry, it sounds mean, and it sounds threatening, and I love it. It's so good. Then, of course, I got to go with Rocket Ride. I mean, come on,
Mm,
that whole song is an Ace Frehley showcase. There's the solo in the middle, like the main guitar solo, and then there's the little jam at the end. Both of them are kick-ass. Both of them are pure Ace Frehley, especially on that middle guitar solo. I mean, he was just on fire. And I think that was kind of what that whole song was about. And then I think the last one I'll throw in there is Snowblind. That's a cool solo. I had when I was a kid, I had the 45 of New York Groove and Snowblind, and that was years before I ever actually got the Ace 78 solo record. So I heard both of those songs so many times, and I think even as like a 5, 6 year old kid, I think I liked Snowblind better than New York Groove, and so that solo is drilled right into my head. So just for no other reason than for nostalgia's sake, I got to go with that one for one more of my top five Ace solos. But it's also, I mean, it's a killer solo on its own, whether I heard it back then or not.
What I love about your list is it's completely different than mine. So we picked totally
Good.
different solos, totally different songs, which is another testament to the creativity and the genius of Ace Frehley. So first and foremost, I've said this before, but my favorite guitar solo probably of all time is Dark Light. I think that more than any
Mm,
other Ace solo is just it's angry, it's pissed off, and it's killer. I love that
yeah,
solo.
it's great
Yeah, I don't think you could really play that without putting a dent in your guitar, breaking a pick or
for
two.
sure. Yeah.
And this one will probably surprise you because I have one on my list that's actually not from a Kiss album. It's from Trouble Walkin', which I see right over your left shoulder.
That one?
Fantastic record. Yes. If
Yeah.
anybody watching hasn't explored that record, it's amazing. Great songs, Eddie Kramer production. I think it's
Yeah.
a really amazing record. And Five Card Stud has a totally kick-ass guitar solo in it.
Yeah.
And Lover All I Can. What do you think of that one?
You know what? Yes. And I'll also just kind of mention that I think Dress to Kill is, dude, he was on fire on that record. Dress to Kill is a perfect primer to the Ace Frehley style because you get a little bit of everything, especially. I actually should have put an honorary sixth song on my list because Getaway, he does like that double solo. Like there's two solos going on at the same time. Some of it is like harmonized and some of it is just chaos. But the thing that's odd about Dress to Kill is that one of his most iconic solos, of course, is Rock and Roll All Night. But there's no solo on the studio version of Rock and Roll All Night. We didn't hear
Right?
that until live. So, but other than that, the rest of the solos on Dress to Kill are kick ass. So yeah, Lover All I Can is up there.
I remember you sent me a text one time and you're like, there's no guitar solo in Rock and Roll All Night. I'm like, of course there is. And you're like, no, this because it had been a minute since I explored Dress to Kill.
Yeah, that was something that didn't even dawn on me until a few years ago, actually. I think, because who listens to the studio version, really? I mean,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
always want to listen to the live version. So then studio version hit, and I was expecting the solo. I'm like, wait, wasn't there?
Well, the judges are going to allow your honorary sixth solo because
Okay,
I
thank you.
too have a sixth honorary mention.
It's
But before
funny
we
how
get
that works, isn't it?
but speaking of backmasking, our last episode was about Trick or Treat. I like speeding back to my baby.
Yeah,
A little bit frontwards, a little bit backmasked, backwards, and then back and forth. It's a fun solo.
yeah, that's a good one.
And it's I know this song is taken a hit or two in Rip and Destroy history, but Making Love has a fantastic guitar solo to it. I think it's the most
Yeah,
redeemable thing about that song
yeah,
and really good solo. And my honorable mention, Dr. Love. It's classic.
it is so good, dude. I'm still trying to figure out the nuances of that one.
I was thinking about whether or not to include Black Diamond, but a lot of that, it's not necessarily a solo. It's more just,
Right.
it's the song,
Yeah,
but great all the same.
yeah, yeah. So there you go. There's 12 songs to listen to get the best of Ace Frehley. If you are for some reason watching or listening to this and you're not familiar with Ace Frehley's solo work, there you go. Maybe we'll make a playlist.
Well, before we get to our next list, another thing I wanted to ask you about were the solo shows that you saw.
Yeah.
And I had this interesting history myself with Ace's solo shows because I had multiple opportunities to see them, but I never made it to them for a whole bunch of different reasons. The
Mhm.
last time Ace really played in Portland, he actually did 2 nights back to back at the Aladdin Theater. And Enough's Enough was playing. I'm a big Enough's Enough fan as well. But my wife had just had surgery literally on
Mhm.
night one. And then, of course, night two is
Yeah.
I couldn't make it. So there was always something that came up and I never got to see him live. I really wish I had.
Yeah, that's a bummer. I know you had always wanted to, but I did manage to see him three times solo. And he has actually played up around here in Wisconsin quite a bit. There was actually probably just as many times that I didn't get to his shows as I did. So, but yeah, I did get to see him three times. First time was November 13th, 2011 at Oneida Casino in Green Bay. Actually, all the times I saw him were in Green Bay. So November 13th, 2011 at Oneida Casino. Then I saw him September 14th, 2015 at the Distillery Green Bay. And then the last time was November 5th, 2022 at the Epic Event Center. Like I said, all of them were in Green Bay. Oneida Casino show in 2011. He had just come out with No Regrets. And so he was talking a little bit, kind of pushing his book a little bit, but he wasn't. I don't think he was in support of an album at that time because I think when did Anomaly come out? Was that like oh 09
I think it was
maybe?
2009. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So he wasn't touring, he wasn't supporting an album at that point, but he was supporting his book. So, but that was a great show. I mean, that was the first time I had seen him since the reunion tour, and or well, I should say, the farewell tour. That was the first time I'd seen him, you know, without Kiss, and that was a great show. It was a ton of fun. Then in 2015, when I saw him, Richie Scarlett was in his band,
Hmm.
and they did Too Young to Die, and that was kick ass because the guy was there, So
Yeah.
that was a fun show. And then 2022 was the tour that he did with Gene's band when he stole Gene Simmons' band, and
Great band. Great
yeah, they
band.
were
Yeah.
awesome. They
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, and the funny thing is about that, the bass player was kick ass, and it wasn't Gene. So so yeah, all of them were all fun shows. He sounded great and did the smoking guitar every time, and I got to be. They were all smaller venues, they weren't arenas, so I got to be real close, and that was amazing. Just seeing a living legend up close a few times. Say what you will about a rock star going from arenas to clubs, but for us fans, it hardly even matters. It's just good to see him.
Mhm. Absolutely. I remember back in '96, I saw Iron Maiden play at the Rave, which is all of
Yeah,
1,200 people. But I was
yeah,
that close to Steve Harris, and that meant the world to
yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, our next list is going to be top five songs.
So, okay, so how did you do this? I wasn't sure if you wanted to do top five like Ace solo songs or top five Kiss songs written by Ace,
Mhm.
or did you separate them or lump them all together, or how did you do it?
For me, it's all baked in. I thought the podcast is going to cover Kiss, Frehley's Comet. It's going to cover the solo stuff. So my list is just all inclusive.
Oh, okay, because I did
So
I
you did,
separated them out. Yeah, I
so
so
you
I did
have two
I have
lists?
I have two top five lists. Yeah, so I have one of Ace solo songs, well, post Kiss songs, solo songs, and Frehley's Comet songs, and then I did a separate one of Kiss songs written by Ace because I wasn't sure where we were going with this, so I actually ended up with two lists.
Now you're just showing off. That's
Come
was
on, man.
extra credit.
Yeah, extra credit. I'm
It's
just a
extra
brown
credit.
noser. Yeah. Okay.
I love it. All
Okay.
right.
So I have two. I'll do one, and then you can do yours, and then I'll do my other.
Perfect.
Okay. So I'll start off with top five solo songs, and that includes solo material and Frehley's Comet. So
Okay.
I am including the 78 solo album as a solo album, not as
Oh,
a Kiss
okay.
album.
Interesting.
So, well, I figure whenever they're interviewed, all the guys always consider the solo albums their solo albums. They never refer to them as Kiss albums. So I consider them solo albums, even though they're in my Kiss collection.
Well, Kiss didn't play on it, but then again, Kiss didn't play on a lot of Kiss records too.
It's, now, wait a minute. I thought we weren't going to get into the negative stuff about Ace. Okay. We're not going to talk about his card games or Dick Wagner.
I think
So,
actually what comes to my mind is Gene watching somebody else play bass and saying, "I sound great,"
yeah.
while eating a sandwich, no less.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to go top five solo songs. And because I mentioned the 78 solo album, I'm going to start it off with Rip It Out because goddamn, I mean, come on. I remember Paul saying, everybody was worried that Ace was even going to turn in a solo album. And then he said, Rip It Out started. And he goes, and even Paul said, all right, Ace. And that's kind of how you think about it too. That his album kicks off with Rip It Out. It's a banger. It's fast and just the title, Rip It Out. That's such a great title. So
Rip,
yeah,
rip,
that's
rip it out.
rip it out. There you go. Um,
So much so that I wonder why that wasn't the single.
You
So
gotta
good.
wonder.
So
Yeah.
good.
Well, yeah, I mean New York Groove is that was pretty much just to be a classic, but
Mhm.
yeah, Rip It Out was kick ass. So we start with Rip It Out, and then I'm gonna go for kind of a dark horse, and that is Insane, which is off Frehley's Comet Second Sighting, which overall is not a great record, but I thought Insane is a great song. That song goes through my head regularly. Also had a great video. So Insane was a fun one. Then I'm gonna jump ahead to Anomaly with Outer Space because I love that song. That was the first single I think that he released before Outer Space came out, and I thought, oh my God, Ace is totally back. This song is great.
Mhm.
I think Outer Space is a super, super strong song. Then I'm gonna rewind it all the way to 78, and I'm gonna go Fractured Mirror
Okay.
because that's a series that he's kept going throughout most of his solo records, doing an instrumental. But I think Fractured Mirror is it's beautiful and it's innovative and it's bold on several levels. and I thought it was a great showcase for Ace's creativity and a lot of heart. And then I think I will go with Too Young to Die because that is again, that's a real aggressive song. Richie Scarlett sings it. I always prefer to go with songs that Ace sung on most of his solo records, just because they sound more Ace. But again, that one's a little bit of a departure, but it's still got Ace all over it, and I think it's a really fun song.
That's a great list.
Thanks.
Except I'm gonna have to go back and revisit Insane because I don't remember that one at all.
Just pull up the video.
I don't think I spent a lot of time with that record at all until
No, I didn't
this
either.
week. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't either. And it's weird because it's an Ace record without enough Ace in it. So it's kind of like the Crab Rangoon of Ace Frehley records. But
Like,
Insane is worth checking out for sure.
great list, great list.
Thanks, buddy.
Okay,
What do you got?
my list, all baked in, all eras. First
Okay.
and foremost, rip it out because
Yeah.
damn,
Yeah.
it's just it's bulletproof.
Yeah.
Love that song. Another one that I like every bit as much as Rip It Out, number two for me, is Rocket Ride.
Absolutely.
And was he doing that one live at the solo shows that you went to?
Yeah. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I've got some video of him doing the guitar solo from it.
Nice, nice. Number three for me, Save Your Love. I love the song and I really dig the double time on the chorus.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's a good, he only had 11 songs that he sang on in Kiss. It
I know.
doesn't seem like very many because like one or two albums, Dynasty and I think maybe Unmasked had three each. So it's not
Yes.
very many. And then number four, once again, Dark Light. Great, great
Hmm.
song. Okay, I gotta take a minute and unpack number five because number five for me was actually Shot Full of Rock. But then you and I were talking earlier about this episode, and I had
You were
mentioned
talking to
that,
somebody backstage before, you mean?
and I had mentioned that, I really hadn't spent a whole lot of time with his last three or four records. I heard them when they came out. The last one didn't really move me. I think I listened to it right when it first came out, watched the video. So, and then you told me that there's actually some great stuff on those records that I should give them another spin. And I did. And I came to the same conclusion that you did, and that is Anomaly is a fantastic record. So
Hmm.
much so that one song knocked Shot Full of Rock off my list, and that is Outer Space.
Yeah.
That is a banger. That is a killer song.
Uh-huh.
And it's weird too because he's playing in drop D tuning, so it sounds a little more guttural.
Hmm.
It's heavier. And the second time I listened to it, it occurred to me that it sounds exactly like an Alice Cooper song, more so from like the
Oh,
Brutal Planet era. But the
sure.
singing and the phrasing, if you think about it, it's very Alice. And
Yeah, I didn't thought I hadn't thought of that, but I'm not surprised that you did.
yep, that's another tour I wish I could have seen. Ace and Alice on the
Hmm.
same night. That was a great tour.
Yeah.
So I would just say I'd give everybody the same encouragement that you gave me. Take Anomaly for a spin and definitely check out Outer Space. We'll put it on the playlist.
Yeah, for sure. So then I guess I'll jump into my top five Kiss Ace Frehley songs. So Ace was known to have written a number of great songs with Kiss. Some of them are a little bit deep cuts actually, because not everybody knows them, and some of them are staples of the Kiss catalog. So I'm going to start off with Parasite.
Hmm.
Again,
Yeah.
heavy, mean, aggressive, early, hungry. Great song. They played it all the way up until the end. Then off the same record, off Hotter Than Hell, you got to go with Strange Ways. Because again, it's another kind of dark song. It's Peter on the vocals, makes it real edgy and a little harsh, and that solo in there is just spooky. It's one of the for an album that's overall kind of spooky. That's like probably the spookiest song on the record. I love it. I love Strange Ways.
You
Matter
know,
of fact, you even had a band named Strange Ways for a hot
I
minute, didn't
did.
you?
I did. And Ace had a way of playing mid-tempo songs and keeping them really interesting, which is
Hmm.
hard to do at a tempo like that. Because Strange Ways
Yeah.
is probably not even mid-tempo; it's pulled back a little bit,
Yeah, it's a little
but
slow, a little doomy.
it's doomy. I like it. And Hotter Than
Yeah.
Hell is my favorite Kiss record, and Parasite's in my top five.
Is Hotter Than Hell your favorite Kiss record?
It is everything but the production. I'd really love to see that thing remastered, but song for
Yeah.
song, I think it's number one for me.
Cool. And then so next I'm gonna go with again probably one of the most quintessential Ace songs, and that's Rocket Ride. That
Hmm.
song is so fun, and the riff is so good, and it's so much fun to play on guitar, and it's got two kick-ass guitar solos. How can you go wrong with Rocket Ride? And it was a single. So which is hilarious. If you think about that, that Ace got the single off Alive too. I mean, that's pretty cool.
It's very cool. It's one of those riffs too. I think about things like if somebody had never heard rock and roll before, how would you define it? And it's just one of those songs that there it is. It's like Draw the Line by Aerosmith. It's just note for note, prototypical four on the floor rock and roll. It's a
Yeah,
kick-ass song.
absolutely. Yeah, man. Then like you mentioned, Unmasked and Dynasty both had a few Ace songs, and so my next one comes off of Unmasked, and that's Torpedo Girl. Come on, man, that song is so ridiculous and so funny. You gotta love it.
It's got
It's
sound
great.
effects.
It does. It's so funny. That's a good one.
I
Again, Ace's sense of humor comes through. And then probably I will have to go with probably the most popular Ace Kiss song, and that's got to be Cold Gin. One of the first Kiss songs, Ace songs I learned to play on guitar. Matter of fact, one of the reasons, here's a story. Before I started playing guitar when I was a kid, when I was maybe like 10-ish years old or something, I actually wanted to start off playing drum. But then I had an opportunity, one of my buddies or something had an electric guitar and I got an opportunity to like pick it up and just noodle around. And I just by ear played a very rudimentary, very wrong version of Cold Gin. And that was the moment I'm like, holy crap, that actually kind of sort of sounded like something, and maybe I could play guitar. So I switched to guitar, and it was Cold Gin that got me there. So
I did not know. I didn't know the part about drums either. That's really cool.
yeah, yeah, and it's still to this day, it's a fun song to play. It's easy, it's fun, it's a banger. I mean, you gotta love Cold Gin.
Love it. I actually really prefer it when Ace sings it too, compared to Gene.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. It's good stuff.
It's great.
The
Well,
version that he re-recorded on one of his Origins albums is really, really good.
because I got chatty and had thoughts on all your songs, why don't you go through the
That's
list
okay.
one through five without.
Okay, so once again, top five Kiss Ace songs: Parasite, Strange Ways, Rocket Ride, Torpedo Girl, and Cold Gin.
Love it. Love it. Well done, sir.
Thank you.
Well, this is something that we've never talked about on the show. Let's take a couple minutes and talk about Frehley's Comet.
Sure.
Your thoughts on the project, the two record. Well, there's two records, and then there was the live. Was it an EP, live
Yep.
plus four,
Yeah,
and
like yep.
then the live video, which is amazing. We'll talk about that too. But what are your thoughts on Frehley's Comet?
I remember when Frehley's Comet was happening when it came out. I remember when it was gonna come out in what was it,
Mhm.
86? I was so excited. I was so excited to hear from Ace again. I remember, some interviews in some of the rock magazines. I remember Paul saying that he was thrilled that Ace had his shit together and he couldn't wait to hear the record. And yeah, the first Frehley's Comet record, you got Rock Soldiers, you got what else? We got Your Rock,
Mhm.
Fractured 2. There was a sequel to Fractured Mirror. Yeah, I thought Fraley's Comet started off super strong. He was on MTV. He was advertising Laney amps. It was just great to see Ace back.
Yeah.
Um, and I told you so. So, but yeah, the first Fraley's Comet was a strong record. Even the ones where who was the other vocalist? Todd Howarth, I think.
Mhm.
Even those songs were good. You had Breakout, which is something that we found out, he wrote with Eric Carr,
Right. Right.
because later on Revenge, there's the Car Jam 1981
Hmm.
and his Breakout. So
Hmm.
that's an interesting link. But yeah, he looked great. He sounded great. He was making the rounds on Headbangers Ball regularly, and it was just great to see Ace back. And then I did pick up the Live Plus One, and that was great because it had some Fraley's Comets, some stuff from the first Fraley's Comet record, and a couple of Kiss songs on it. That was a fun one. Unfortunately, Second Sighting, things kind of fell off the rails. I think a lot of people have the same opinion on that record. Like I said, Insane's a great song. The rest of the record, I would say the less said the better. So I'm not going to say anything else.
It
But
is
yeah, and I also thought that Fraley's Comet was a super clever, funny name.
it is now time ain't running out. That's on Second Sighting, right?
Yeah, I think so.
That's a song that's just begging for an 80s soundtrack.
Yeah,
It's like a song in need of a credit scene. It
yeah.
really is. Now, back then, did you see the video for Live Plus Four?
No, I didn't. I think they released a video from it like on MTV, I think, didn't they?
Hmm.
Yeah, so
I'm sure they
I
did.
saw that. I think they used one of those as like a video single on MTV, but no, I didn't actually see the entire video. Not back then.
It's really fun. The band sounds great. It's a really cool set list that looks a lot like my top five. The one thing that really stood out to me about that show in particular was it was the most animated I've ever seen Ace on stage. because the
Mhm.
first couple songs, especially, he's singing on every mic, he's back and forth, and it's really fun to watch. And I totally agree with you about the excitement when that first Frehley's Comet record came out. For me, it was super cool because it was the first time I got to see him without makeup. And,
Mhm.
when he did the Laney advertisements and then when the record came out in the video. And the funny thing is, when I think about that record or when I listen to that record, it always brings me back to Appleton, Wisconsin. I was all of like 11, 12 years old, maybe, when that
Mhm.
record came out. So, what I would do, I borrowed that tape from my friend Corey, put it in my Walkman, and then I would like sneak it into bed and then listen to it at night when I was supposed to be asleep. So it brings me back to being 12 years old and trying not, it was only as loud as I could get it without my parents hearing it.
Uh-huh.
And I listened to that tape over and over again. So great
That's awesome.
memories. It was a great
That's great.
album.
Well, you were hiding under the covers with a flashlight and some comic books, right?
Of course.
That's what you did.
What about the solo stuff? Now, I mentioned Trouble Walking. I think it's
Yeah.
horribly underrated. And I'm glad it was a great record because it was the last one we would get for about 20 years.
Yeah, and I don't think I heard that record until probably the early 90s. It came out in 89, but I didn't hear it for a few years after until I kind of started catching up a little bit. Yeah, that was a great record. I don't know what the issue was where he went from Frehley's Comet to Ace Frehley. I don't really know. I don't remember what the situation was, and I haven't really didn't really do the research on that before the episode. But it's just under the title of Ace Frehley. It's not Frehley's Comet, but it's a super strong record. Yeah, Shot Full of Rock is great. Too Young to Die is one of my favorites.
Mhm.
His cover of ELO's Do Ya was a single, and it's really strong.
Well, not only was it a single, it was a cuss single. And I actually had it at one point.
You had it at one point, and
Stop
I
it.
still have it. This is yours, dude. I don't
I,
know. I don't know. I don't remember why or how or when you gave it to me, but you gave me this. This was yours.
well, I'm so glad I did. That's I
Well,
no,
you're
I
coming over this weekend, so if you want it back, you can have it back. I've kept it safe for 30 years.
that's all you. But I do remember actually cutting the single like the cardboard so it would fit into a plastic case.
Oh, you
That
mean,
is
yeah, like that?
that is fantastic. What was the
That's the
B-side?
one.
What was the B-side?
Um, Let me see. Oh, it was Fractured 3.
Yeah, I got that at Camelot Music at the Fox River Mall.
Nice. Well, it's still here, buddy.
No, I do want to see it. I'm not going to take it home with me, but I got to
Oh
see
yeah,
it this
yeah.
weekend.
I'll keep it handy.
You can keep that one. You can keep the Vinnie Vincent tape too. That I think we have joint custody of a Vinnie Vincent album.
Yeah, I think over the years you've written me checks for 1 cent for joint custody child support on that one. So
Honestly, you
appreciate it, Dad.
honestly you've had it so long I forget which one it was.
I think it was just the first one.
Okay, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
it was the debut. Yeah,
And I don't think anybody bought the second one. So,
I still don't have it.
well, going back to Trouble Walking, when you take Ace Frehley, and one thing I really liked about the changeover from Frehley's Comet to Ace Frehley was he was doing all the lead vocals, and I really
Right,
like his voice. And
except
with
for the
that,
Richie Scarlett songs.
true.
Yeah.
But with that record in particular, you had Ace Frehley, you had Eddie Kramer, of course, and you also
Hmm.
had Peter Criss doing backup
Hmm.
vocals on a good handful of songs. I think it's three,
Yeah,
four different songs, and you just can't go wrong with that.
yeah. Super strong record. If you haven't heard that one, you got to check it out.
Definitely. And the only other one I really wanted to touch on as far as the solo career goes was Anomaly, and that was, it's now officially my favorite solo album since Trouble Walking, and that one really stands out to me. And again, Outer Space, love it. It made my top five.
Yeah, Outer Space was good. Pain in the Neck is a pretty good song. Foxy and Free, I think is
Hmm.
a great opener. That's a fun song.
Yeah, it is.
His cover of Fox on the Run is interesting because if you've ever heard the original version by The Sweet, it sounds like Ace singing that song. I don't know what it is, but the singer of The Sweet on that song for some reason really sounds like Ace, even in the original version. So it's almost a natural that Ace covered that one. Yeah, I think Anomaly's got some really good stuff on it. I remember being very excited when that one came out too. I got the CD version that like, you open it up and it kind of like transforms into a pyramid or something.
Hmm.
Um, I thought the first half of the album was really good. Second half I thought kind of fell off the rails a little bit, but we won't talk about that because Outer Space is so good. That's definitely, hey, it's in both of our top five. So
Right,
There you
right.
go. Take it from Rip and Destroy.
And we didn't even talk about that before. It
No.
just that happened. That was
Yeah.
for reals.
Yep.
Yep.
So after Anomaly, we had Space Invader, which I thought is a pretty strong record. Spaceman and 10,000 Volts was his last solo effort. And then in between some of those, we had Origins, Volume 1, Volume 2, his collection of cover songs, which I do want to touch on just a little bit because they were fun records. For the most part, I wouldn't want to listen to a whole record of covers, but actually, the way Ace does covers, it's always really interesting. He did some really, really good ones. I think his version of Zeppelin's "Bring It On Home" is kick ass.
Mhm.
He used to bust out a little bit of that live too, and you could tell that he just loved playing that song because it is a really fun song to play and a really fun song to listen to. It's one of my favorite Zeppelin songs as well. His version is heavy, and he redid some Kiss classics, including "Rock and Roll Hell," which was a song that he didn't play on originally, but he
Mhm.
covered. So that's interesting. And of course, can't talk about his cover albums without talking about "Fire and Water," which had Paul Stanley as a guest star. That was super exciting to see those two get together again, and they sounded great. So yeah, his solo output has been pretty solid.
And Fire and Water, great video. It just makes me
Yeah,
happy to see those guys back together.
I think that made all of us happy.
And he was working on Origins 3,
Yeah.
and I'm curious how much they actually finished and if that'll ever be released.
Yeah, somebody asked that on one of the forums the other day, and I don't know who answered or if they have the authority to say, but they said it was pretty close to done. So yeah, I wouldn't doubt it if they might kind of finish up and polish up and release what there was. I don't think it was completely finished, but I think it was a good chunk of the way along. So I would like to see them release it in whatever form is available.
I would as well. So my final thought is just simply, we celebrate all the eras of Kiss, and I think everybody contributed something special to the 50-year legacy. But that said, there was always just something special about seeing them live with Ace. It was always
Absolutely.
different and it was always better.
Yeah, I remember when I saw the reunion tours for the first time in '96, and Ace by far was like the most striking of the four for me to see, especially just as an Ace fan, to finally see him live in full regalia, doing his thing, the smoking guitar, dude. I remember almost being in tears when I finally got to see that live with all the makeup and all the everything. So yeah, I mean that's always going to stand out as a huge memory to me, and this is just I think we all realize that this has been really tough because this is the first of the he's the first of the original four to go, man, and that's scary for all of us who are getting older. I think we've all wondered what was going to happen when one of these when we reached one of these days, and it sucks. But what do you do other than just keep listening and remember everything awesome about the spaceman Ace Frehley?
That's it. The only thing left to do is lift our glass.
The gravity that used to hold you down just don't exist no more, Ace. We love you.
Ack.
See you, Curly. Wait, before we go, I got one more thing I want to do. You see that copy of Frehley's Comet up here?
I do.
This is an original pressing.
Mm,
This is not one of the reissues with the typo on the back. This is an OG pressing with the hype sticker.
wow.
It's still sealed. For
Unreal.
for Ace, let's open this sucker up.
Is it time?
It's time. We are going to open a sealed copy of Frehley's Comet from 1987, 6, 7, and it's going to be fresh as a daisy inside, man.
Look at that. It's in perfect shape.
Yeah, the insides will be.
Are we gonna
Oh my God.
are we gonna spin it this weekend?
We're going to spin it as soon as we're done here.
I love it.
All right, man, here we go. Never been opened. There it is. It's got this weird bonobo on it. I don't know if you, I didn't realize that was a thing, but it's got this weird monkey on the inside. I'm unfamiliar with that art. There's nothing else in it.
Look at
Damn.
that. That is fantastic. It's
Brand
perfect.
spanking new, fresh 1987 pressing of Frehley's Comet, fresh out the package for you guys, our Rip and Destroy audience, and for you, Ace. I've had this for years. It's been sealed, and we're gonna spin this later. So there it is. Thanks, Ace.
Kill the power, Phil. Kill the power.